All right, guys, for the next one, hip halo is going to stay in the same position, but we're going to lay down on the floor. So we're going to be laying on our back. So we're going to have the hip halo still in that distal thigh. We're going to have Matt laying down on the ground here. Feet are going to be fairly narrow. Knees are going to be driven out, all right? And the key with this is we start with a posterior pelvic tilt, and then we lift one segment of that spine at a time as he comes up, right? And then when he gets up to this nice tall position, we're going to go the opposite coming down. He's going to start from the top, one segment at a time coming down. So use the analogy of you're taking a string of pearls off the floor and you're picking it up one segment at a time. So he's curling around this spine. What we're working on here is the ability to stabilize each segment on top and below the segments adjacent to it. So rather than bracing and moving the whole spine as a unit, with this one we want to be able to segment the spine and really work through stability segment by segment as we go through it. So common faults you're probably going to see as athletes try to get into this is it is a challenging motor program movement to do. So oftentimes athletes just move the whole thing as a unit. So he just comes up, there's no segmentation of it as he goes through the motion. So we really want to work again on that ability to posteriorly pelvic tilt, segment by segment as he comes up and back down. You can use the cue of curling around the belly button. So if he really curls around that belly button, you can see those hips roll into that posterior pelvic tilt. The other thing that we see often is as people are focusing so hard on that segmentation, they lose this hip abduction. So these knees come in and they go through it, they're focusing on the spine, but we lose that glute activation of that knee out and that knee drive into that hip halo as we go through. And finally, hamstring cramps aren't too uncommon with this exercise. Sometimes that's because the legs are out too far, so that's requiring that hamstring to overwork, or that glute isn't firing well enough. So if we pull those heels in a little tighter, feet a little closer, drive those knees out, that's really going to isolate and have us focus on squeezing that glute as he lifts up, and then same thing, controls it on the way back down. So really the goal of this exercise is slow controlled movement, segment by segment as you go through the motion.